welcome back to Toyota Sports Talk. Always great to have Jake Russell from the Washington Post on with us tonight. He can talk everything baseball, football. Jake, as always, appreciate your time.
As always, I appreciate being invited to this show. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Happy New Year, too. I haven't talked to you since the New Year hit, and kind of the same old for Major League Baseball in terms of the lockout. Really no progress, no talks. When's this going to end, buddy?
Your guess is as good as mine. There's about as much movement on the lockout talks as there's me sitting in this chair right now. There's not much going on with that at all. I have no idea when it's going to end. And hopefully, as someone who enjoys watching baseball, and I know millions of others do as well, hopefully it doesn't affect spring training or the regular season or any people's plans to go to games this year. Hopefully there's no interruption of the season like there was last year, but that was also COVID related. But this year, hopefully it's something that can be preventable.
Do you think this is the type of situation where as spring training gets closer and closer, pitchers and catchers, that's when kind of the talks will start progressing or heating up? Because once you get closer to the season, that's when you start losing money.
Yeah, as someone we're both familiar with, Andrew Brandt always says deadlines spur action. So hopefully that's the case in this scenario, that obviously money is pretty much rules the world. So that'll be a big factor in how quickly they ramp up these negotiations. How much are we going to lose by missing X amount of games, X amount of spring training games, X amount of regular season games, all this revenue for all these teams? Are we going to miss any of that? I think that'll be a big factor in terms of how quickly they wrap this thing up or even start the talks, period.
What did you make of Major League Baseball scrubbing the pictures of the players off the websites?
I thought it was... So I didn't know this rule at first, so I thought it was slightly petty, but then I realized that's part of the CBA. They're not allowed to have the players on there if there's a lockout. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then all the players started making that their profile picture on social media. I'm like, all right, that's pretty funny. I enjoy that. I enjoy them at least having some fun out of this. I mean, as much fun as you can have in a lockout. I appreciated a little bit of back and forth with that.
In terms of free agency and trades, everything's halted right now. So everything's pushed back. The Nationals, well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can go about this, and they have a lot of needs. What can they do in free agency once it starts?
Well, they've made a couple of minor moves so far, but they're not necessarily anything that's going to sell season tickets. They could add a starting pitcher. They could add a shortstop like a Carlos Correa who's still out there. Right now, it's to be determined. I'm sure Mike Rizzo is anxious as anybody, just sitting here waiting because that guy loves making moves. And he's also, he's not shy when it comes to making moves in January. So the fact that it's gone on this long is probably grinding his gears. He's like, I really should have a strong idea of what my team looks like at this point right now, but he doesn't. So I imagine they're going to be active, at least trying to search for players. Whether they actually acquire them, given the status that their franchise is in right now, that's another question.
How much doom and gloom do you think the Nats fan base has right now for this upcoming season with the Nationals?
Well, I think if they just measure it with the football team in the same town, then it's not that bad. It's not bad at all. They just won the World Series just a little over 2 years ago, and they have one of the best general managers in the sport, if not the best general manager in the sport. There's a lot to be excited about. Their minor league system is a lot better than it was just back in June before the trade deadline. There's a lot to be excited about with them, but right now, obviously, it's going to be a little bit different. They're not necessarily going to be competing for an NL East championship, I don't think, no matter what kind of moves they make. But this year, they're going to have to take a breath, take a step back, kind of not expect the same thing, but hopefully for them, in maybe a year or two, they'll be back to where they were. But this year, it's going to be a little bit of a change of pace for them, I think.
Are you mentally prepared to see Max Scherzer in a Mets uniform?
I've seen the number 21 jersey on social media, and I've seen all the photoshops, and I've seen him actually wearing the Mets hat. But no, I'm still not. It's weird. Like, sports are so weird. They just, think you've seen everything. No, you really haven't. You're going to see something different. So
it'd be like Jordan. It'd be like Jordan going to the Knicks. Like, it's just.
Or to the Wizards. Never thought you would see that happen.
Yeah.
But it's going to be weird seeing him, and I believe they have two of the Nats' first three series are against the Mets. So, I mean, even though the season might be a down year, that's still a fun way to start the season, I think, if the season starts on time.
Jake, let's talk some football quickly. How excited are you for February 2nd?
I'm very excited. I'm a unicorn. I've actually cared a lot more about the name change than I have about the games, and that's kind of been different than my feelings in the past. I'm a big logo and uniform and branding nerd, so this is right up my alley. I've been so curious ever since they announced the name change as to what it's going to be. Like I even if it's not a local team, I care about like how teams look, how they rebrand. Like when the NFL had, I believe 6 or 7 teams rebrand a couple years ago or a year and a half ago, I was like, all right, this is really interesting to me. I want to see how they look, what colors they are the logos simplified, but yet, tough? Do they represent the franchise in the proper manner? I apply that to the same thing with Washington. It's very, very, very interesting to me, and I cannot wait for February 2nd. Every day's been the same the last 22 months, but
Do you have a
I'm very,
guess? What's your best guess of the name?
right now, I don't have any solid information on this, but I'm just guessing it's Commanders based on the information I've seen. I'm really interested to see how it's tied into the leaks that they've given us, that the team officially gave us on last week with the new uniform, the little teasers with the new uniforms, the jerseys, the pants, the helmets, all that stuff. I'm very, very curious to see what the final product is.
Jake, as always, great to have you on Toyota Sports Talk.
Thanks for having me, as always. Happy 22 to you.
Yeah, man. Tell your mother I said hello, will you?
Will do.
All right. Much more to come right here on Toyota Sports Talk. Stay with us.